Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session titled Salesforce Solution Architect. There is a new pyramid in town by Gaurav Kheterpal. Now, having cleared both the new B2B and B2C Solution Architect certifications, there's no better person than Gaurav to share his experience with our community and how budding architects can achieve the same. Now, before we start, a few housekeeping rules. Okay, please use the live Q&A feature in the AirTouch section towards the bottom right to submit any questions that you have during or after the presentation. And for regular chat, you can use the discussion forum option. Okay, we'll have a short Q&A session right after the presentation, and then we will review and address your questions based on time availability. Okay, and if you have any buffering issues, if the screen is lagging, if the video is lagging, just click on the audio video issues link that you see at the bottom of the screen, and then try to switch to a different backup stream. Okay, so with that, let me pass control to our speaker. Over to you, Gaurav. Take it away.
All right, let's get started. So welcome to Sea Dreaming, Southeast Asia's first ever Salesforce community event. And I'm so glad to participate in this event. We have dreaming events all over the world, and it's finally coming to Southeast Asia. Really excited, and I'm hoping this is the first of many such Sea Dreaming events in the future. Um, I'll be talking about Salesforce Solution Architect. There is a new pyramid in town. So this is a new career path which Salesforce opened up in the last year or so, both on the B2C and the B2B side. And I was very fortunate to be amongst the first few ones to clear those credentials. And I really want to share my journey and in turn help others who would benefit from this career path. My name is Gaurav Kheterpal. I'm here to talk all about solution architects. You can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm fairly active in both the places. So without a further ado, let's get started. Sea Dreaming would not be possible without the active support of these sponsors. Um, no event is possible without the support of these sponsors, any sponsors, but particularly it's so pleasing to see like some of the big names on this slide, as well as some of the companies which have actually stepped up to sponsor this event. So thank you to all the sponsors for supporting Sea Dreaming, and this would not be possible without you. Obviously, this event would not be possible without the organizers, and I'm fortunate to know and have met several of them: Anuj, Kerry, Jason, Joey, Johan, Manish, Shivu, and Henry. A huge thank you to all of you. It's a lot of effort to put an event together at any scale, and to do it virtually and to do it at a scale where you're involving multiple countries is really a fantastic achievement. So thank you, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that this event will go very smoothly. Why am I here? I'm here because you are here, and we are all here because of the love of Salesforce. Again, I've been in the Salesforce community since the last 14 years, and it's just been so pleasing to see how the community has evolved globally in various parts of the world, and how these community events are shaping the future of Salesforce. Um, let's understand what the Salesforce Solution Architect pyramid is all about. So I'll basically try and demystify it into five portions. I'll break it down, what that pyramid looks like, how do you prepare for it, what are the exams, what are the career opportunities, and then what's the overall roadmap in terms of some of the career paths at Salesforce, in the Salesforce ecosystem. A little bit about me. My name is Gaurav Kheterpal. I started working in Salesforce ecosystem in 2007, or as my wife likes to call it, I got married to Salesforce in 2007. I've been a Salesforce MVP since 2016. It's been one of the biggest highlights of my professional career. I used to be a certified technical instructor at Salesforce, which means I taught classes around Salesforce architecture and Commerce Cloud, primarily for APAC and ANZ regions. I lead a developer group in the city of Jaipur, also called as Pink City, in India. And then since I've been around, I've done a number of certifications. As I said, I was one of the first few to pass these solution architect credentials as well. And I'm also very active in terms of learning as a partner. I've done 15 accredited professional credentials, and I'm very active on partner learning camp as well. I work as Chief Learning Officer at MTX Group, a summit tier partner with Salesforce with offices in India, Australia, US, and Canada. And yeah, let's talk about the pyramids first. So anybody who wanted to be a Salesforce architect, originally they would be familiar with this particular pyramid called as the certified technical architect, regarded as the pinnacle of success in Salesforce, one of the toughest credentials. Um, and this was great. I mean, you worked up your path through the domain architects, the application architect, the system architect. You met the prerequisites. You appeared for the review board, which is a grueling experience in many ways. And then you got the certified technical architect. Obviously, a huge accomplishment for whoever has done this. But the problem there was that not everybody wants to be a certified technical architect. There are people who want to be a solution architect. There are people who want to be an enterprise architect. So how do you make this a level playing field for everybody? Thankfully, Salesforce came up with this other pyramid, which is basically the P2P and the P2C solution architect pyramid. Again, very well thought through, very well designed. You have prerequisites for both the sides of the pyramid. You do certain number of credentials, like to be a B2B solution architect, you do the data architecture, sharing and visibility, PD1, platform app builder. And on the B2 side, it's a little bit simpler. There are only three. You do the integration architecture designer, you do the platform app builder, you do the marketing cloud email specialist. There is one difference though. Just doing these prerequisites makes you eligible for the solution architect exams. It does not give you those specific credentials like you get an application architect or a system architect after completing these pyramids. And then the exams is what I'll talk about in a little bit as well. But the idea is the preparation is somewhat similar, or rather the prerequisites are somewhat similar. You do certain number of credentials, it opens up the door for you to do the overall solution architect credential. As for the CTA, it opens up the path for you to appear for the review board. Okay, what kind of an architect are you? So as I said, it's not really a one size fits all approach to architecture when we talk about architects in the technology industry. Broadly speaking, there are three. There are technical architects, there are solution architects, and there are enterprise architects. Obviously, we could debate that there are many other roles, and I'll show you some of the other roles as well. But at a high level, you can break them down into these three. The key differences are the technology focus and the strategy focus. Obviously, if you are a technical architect, you are expected to know technology very deeply. On the flip side, if you're an enterprise architect, you are expected to be very strong in strategy. And solution architect is the kind of middle ground of both. You know technology and you know strategy as well. And again, as I said, there are many other paths that you could talk about. You could be a data architect, you could be a business architect, you could be focused on integration, you could be doing a number of other paths as well. So it really depends on what kind of a job role you are in, what is your core skill set, and what are the demands of that specific engagement as well. By and large, these are some of the more common ones. Like for example, business architect is very common in the Salesforce ecosystem as well, and so is application architects as well. So how do you prepare for this credentials, or how do you prepare for to be a Salesforce solution architect? Again, it's not an easy path like CTA. This is a difficult journey, but the good thing is that you can plan it out. You do not have to go through a review board. It's all exams based on web assessor. And let's look at the way I prepared, and hopefully that will help you prepare as well. So for any exam, my thumb rule is these three steps. And this is where I think a lot of people take it as an obvious and don't really realize the value of it. Read the exam guide. I usually take a printout of the exam guide. I do all sorts of annotations there, and then I try and read every section. And I would literally copy things from the exam guide, paste it on Google, and see what search results come up, and I would also go through those references. Trail mix is the holy grail to prepare for any certification, and that is true for these solution architect credentials as well. It has been very well designed, very well crafted. And then the third one is PLC, which is the partner learning camp, which I call as the golden secret of Salesforce credentials. It is only accessible to partners. If you work for a Salesforce partner, you can go to partnerlearningcamp.salesforce.com, sign up for a number of courses, and then these courses are very well designed. They do include some trailhead modules, but apart from that, they include a lot of other content which is use case driven and which is exactly the kind of preparation that you need for these exams. So as I said, in terms of prep, I mean, you need to understand like the core concepts of Salesforce. You need to understand at a very high level the various clouds. If you do that, then that obviously puts you in a good standing for these exams. Uh, Salesforce has done a really good job in terms of implementing curriculums for both of these exams. So there is the B2C Solution Architect credential. Again, it's all on Partner Learning Camp, and then they've actually recommended you start off with the foundational courses. You tackle multi-cloud commerce, you tackle multi-cloud service, multi-cloud marketing, identity and integration, personalized and segmentation, customer experience, and then that gets you ready for the exam. And again, each of these has multiple courses or multiple submodules on PLC. If you do that, you will have a solid understanding of the core concepts. Obviously, that is not a substitute for project experience, but again, if you understand the concepts, if you are clear on the use cases, there is a very good chance that you will be able to apply them correctly in the exam. The exam is a little bit commerce heavy. There is absolutely no denying that, and I can say that based on my experience. So, do spend a lot of time ramping up on the core concepts on Commerce Cloud as well as Marketing Cloud. Similarly, there is the B2B Solution Architect path. There are foundational courses, there are courses related to sales and commerce, service, field service, sales and marketing, multi-cloud integrations, and finally, customer experience. Again, you need to have some experience in these areas, but if you do not have that experience, there are a number of resources, including PLC, where you can learn the core concepts. And if you again try and correlate the use cases, I'll give you a few tips in this session later as well. There is a chance that you can appear for this credential. And again, the best part is Salesforce is putting its weight behind these credentials. They are actually giving out free vouchers and publishing and expanding these courses on a regular basis. So all the resources are there. It's just that you need to put in your efforts as well. Eventually, regardless of whether you are doing B2C, B2B, or both, it boils down to a few things like a customer use case. So um, the exams are purely use case driven. As I said, it is all about these four steps. Like, what is the primary key? How do you identify your customer across clouds? Whether you use something like a global party ID, whether the source of truth for customer information is the platform, whether it's commerce cloud, whether it's marketing cloud. What is the data strategy? What kind of data do you store in each cloud? Like, probably you would store the cases in service cloud, you would store the e-commerce transaction information in commerce cloud. And again, there would be a lot of such information that you would be expected to know. How do you sync profiles? Like, for example, if the customer is using multiple clouds, how do you ensure that their profile data is synced across all these clouds? How do the data volume considerations come into play? Like, how do you deal with LDV in all these multi-cloud scenarios as well? So these are some of the things that you're expected to know. A simple example is, for example, there is a customer who has both commerce and marketing. How do they play with each other? So, for example, transactional emails. So, you customer does a transaction in Commerce Cloud. You use the Marketing Cloud Journey Builder or any other tool within Marketing Cloud to send out transactional emails, behavioral emails based on, for example, they looked at certain items in the cart, and then you want to send them an email, hey, I have a discount for you. So how do you trigger that? Data synchronization, a single view of the customer catalog, content, and orders. This is very important. Obviously, you do not want customer to see like different views or different data in different places. So again, these are a good example of the kind of concepts. Another example is Commerce Cloud and Service Cloud. Customer obviously gets a shared view. a simplified case creation, their order failed or their payment failed. You don't want them to go to a separate portal. You want to give them that functionality right there in your portal, and then order on behalf of, like, for example, you want the customer to be able to order on behalf of other users, have opportunities to cross sell and upsell. Again, some commerce concepts, but it's not very difficult. And if you know these, you'll have a fair shot at some of the exam questions. B2B, B2C solution kits, especially important for the B2C commerce offering. And then there is a whole, these are expanded now, and you can actually see them at sftc.co/B2C solution kit. So I highly recommend you go through these before you appear for the exam. The exams. So are these exams easy? Are these difficult? There is really no classification that I can do. If, as I said, if you prepare well, if you study for the core concepts, if you try and understand the use cases, and if you try and break it down in terms of the concepts that you've learned, you should be able to have a fair chance of passing these exams. So these are easier than the Rubik's Cube, just for context. And again, there are multiple sources. These are some graphics which I picked up from Salesforce Ben, similar to the PLC curriculum, and again they kind of break it down at a more granular level. And if you prepare well, then there is a great chance that you can pass. Similarly for the B2B side of things as well. What is the overall roadmap? They are actually working on another credential called, so FY21 Solution Architect is live. I highly recommend, if you work in areas like pre-sales, solution engineering, demo engineering, this is absolutely the career path that you should be pursuing. I've been in the Salesforce partner ecosystem for long enough. There was a phase, and there is the CTA credential is still in a lot of demand, but now I see a lot of career opportunities for Salesforce Solution Architect. So if you are a solution architect in the truest sense, you do not need to go to the CTA path. If you want to do it, that's great as well. But there is a credential and a career path just for you. And then the best part, Salesforce is already working on the Salesforce Enterprise Architect credential. I'm very fortunate to be on the steering committee for this one, and I love the way this is shaping up. And sometime in 2022, we will see another credential called Enterprise Architect come up. With that, that's the end of my presentation, and I will be opening the floor for any questions and answers. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the event.
Awesome. Thank you very wonderful session. It was very informative about the two certifications that we have. And I believe we had a question from the audience, which you already answered by providing some trail mixes and links. But team, if you do have additional questions, please use the live Q&A option right now. We have Gaurav here with us to help answer some of those for you. While we wait for that, Gaurav, I have one question for you as well. If a person is very inclined towards technical architecture, okay, or like development, they're coming from the development side, is there any benefit in taking the solution architect credentials, or should we focus specifically on getting the CTA one? And also, is there any advantage that these two certifications will have in clearing the CTA board review?
Absolutely. I think that's a question which comes up very often from the community. There is tremendous value in anybody who wants to do CTA, to do these solution architect credentials. You can actually look at these. And the best part about these exams is, as I mentioned earlier as well, that these are scenario based. So 60 questions are like 60 mini CTA scenarios for you. Each question you can actually consider as a mini or a micro scenario. And they would ask you, like, for example, we are using Salesforce Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and for this specific use case, what is it, or how would you solution a particular a problem? So again, 60 of those on the B2B side, 60 of those on the B2C side, and it prepares you very well for CTA, and it actually gets you in a groove that you actually try and decipher use cases and solution accordingly. So I absolutely recommend 100%. I know a few people who actually took these consciously before they went for the review board, because it is kind of a validation for your knowledge before you take the big review board. So
awesome. Thank you, Gaurav. We just had one question just come in right now. Pandu, what kind of company usually looks for solution architects, for as a role, and are there any other companies out there that actually look for solution architects? Any
Yeah,
recommendation
so
from your side?
it's a very common role. I mean, leaving the fancy title part aside, you could call it solution architect, you could call it solution engineer, you could call it a pre-sales architect. Any Salesforce partner has a need for these people. Typically, their role is that a customer put out like an RFP, or a customer has you have a like a one-liner requirement from a customer, and then you need to dig deeper. You need to prepare some demos, or you need to just present your thoughts to the customer to engage them further. So in the pre-sales cycle, this is a very common role in the Salesforce partner ecosystem. You There could be a need for it in the customer side as well, especially larger customers, enterprise customers, but predominantly it's a role which is very common in the partner ecosystem. My company, MTX, we have a big solution engineering team, and I'm pushing everybody to do these credentials. And I'm sure that for Shibu and UST Global and any other partner in the ecosystem, these are very valuable roles and very, very appropriate credentials.
Awesome. Thank you, Gaurav. There is one question from Sonu. The question is if you're a marketing cloud, from a marketing cloud background, especially in development side, would these credentials be beneficial? And if so, would it add value for them?
Yeah,
Having
so
taken that,
absolutely.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the future is multi-cloud. They used to call it cross cloud earlier, and now it's called multi-cloud. So just having a marketing cloud skill or a commerce cloud skill will limit your growth in many ways. So if you truly want to evolve in the Salesforce ecosystem, then you need to have skills across cloud. I'm not saying you need to be an expert on every cloud. Like, you don't need to be an expert on sales, service, commerce, marketing. That is not really feasible, but you need to know enough, and you need to be able to connect the dots. And if you are purely from a marketing cloud background, then it's going to be a little bit challenging, to be honest, because both certifications do have a commerce aspect to it as well. But again, it's a gap that if you plan well, if you do the trail mixes, if you do the PLC courses, you should be able to do it. So so for example, I come from a very commerce centric background. I used to teach commerce, and I've done several projects on commerce, but marketing is actually my weak spot. So I learned marketing, I did those marketing credentials, Pardot credentials, and then it prepared me well for these credentials as well. So absolutely, it's a gap, but it's a gap which you can, if you put in efforts, you can cover that.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Gaurav. Also curious to know, looking at the B2B and the B2C pyramids, right? And because you have taken both of those, do you see any overlap that can be in terms of studying, in terms of preparation? Are there any common areas for the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to sales and service and experience as well, you will see that there are questions which are on the B2B. Distinction comes in, like for B2C, you will basically be dealing with
Okay, I think it's slightly break right now, so there might be a slight network connection issue, guys. So please give us a minute while Gaurav comes back. And I know Christian has a question here, when is it going to be available, the practice org for Marketing Cloud? So I'll definitely help answer that question. So right now, Marketing Cloud does not have any plans for having a developer org available free of charge, like how you have the regular developer edition orgs. So you either need to be a customer, or you need to be a partner, Salesforce partner, and they are eligible to get free partner orgs where you can actually practice Marketing Cloud. Okay, so okay. I know we have a couple more questions coming in, so I'll just wait for a minute for Gaurav to join us back in. If if he's having network issues, then what I'll do is I'll collect these questions. I will check offline with Gaurav, and then we'll try to get those questions answered for you. Okay.
Shibu. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Gaurav.
So sorry about that. And it seems my
No
internet.
worries. No worries. These issues happen. Not a problem. So, yeah, if you can just go back to that same question, it should be fine. So it kind of broke off at the beginning part. So
Yeah, forward accordingly. Which question we were on?
um, was on the distinction between the two. I mean, is any overlap between the
Yes,
two? Sorry.
yes. Yeah, so sales and service are like the common components which you can expect questions in both B2B and B2C. The distinction is really when you are dealing with the B2C solution architect credential, you'll have lots of questions on marketing cloud, B2C commerce, and anything that is related to B2C use cases. And similarly, when you are on the B2B side, it is mostly Cloud Craze, Pardot, some of the other tools on the B2B side. But again, core platform, sales, service, experience, you can expect questions on both in both the credentials. So that's something that you should be solid on, regardless of which solution architect credential you are aiming for.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Gaurav. There is a question from Manish. So he's saying, like, see, these architect certifications are pretty important. It takes a lot of time and investment in, right? So do you see, like, companies going through those challenges and supporting their employees, like, or what would be your message to some of these organizations to help support employees to encourage them to like take these certifications?
Absolutely, that's a very valid point, and I think the way I look at it is what CTA was 11 years back or 10 years back when it started. People were not really sure, like, why should I spend so much time and effort to get an CTA? I mean, is it really worth it? I think the solution architect credentials are right now in a similar space. They are fairly new. There is adoption, but again, it is not a wide scale adoption. And again, companies are still kind of coming up to terms in the sense that what is the value add for companies. For individuals, obviously they get certified, they become a solution architect. There is definitely value for individual perspective, but from the partner ecosystem and from the overall company perspective, I think it will still take a little bit of time. The good thing is, as I mentioned towards the end as well, Salesforce realizes that they can't just leave it at the solution architect and be done with it. They are actually working on an enterprise architect credential. So now you have two paths. You have a CTA, you have a solution architect, but soon you will actually have a third path, which is enterprise architect. And if you were to ask me again, these are three different career paths, but in our industry, these roles or these paths overlap a lot. So if you are purely into pre-sales, you are not a developer, you don't want to be very technical, stick to the solution architect path. That is something that will do you a lot of good. If you want to prepare for CTA, again, I still recommend that if you're anywhere going to learn all the prerequisites, so you should appear for these credentials. If you clear them, it is actually a boost in your CTA journey. And again, once the enterprise architect credential comes, if you are already a solution architect, that gives you a leg up in terms of the new credential as well. So absolutely, there is some acceptance already, but I think in the years or in the months and the years to come, this credential will be as respectable as a CTA.
Awesome, cool. Thank you, Gaurav. Amit has asked a question, but I think you've already covered it. But just to make sure that it is covered, he's asking, like, the solution architect, is it specific to B2B, B2C commerce cloud only, or does it cover solution architect concepts across clouds, like, sales cloud, revenue cloud, service cloud, etc. as well? So yeah, I think you've already, it is known as cross cloud for a reason, right? So
Yeah, so I think the name is the problem here. I think when you hear B2B solution architect, and there is only one product with the B2B name on it, it is B2B commerce. And similarly, B2C solution architect, there is only one product called B2C solution architect, B2C commerce for that path. But again, these are multi-cloud credentials. They do involve a commerce component to it, but that is not the only thing. So if you are a B2B commerce developer or a B2C commerce developer or an architect, just those things will not cut it for you. You will need to be a true multi-cloud. You'll need to have true multi-cloud exposure. If you do not have that, again, I'll say this one more time. If you do the PLC courses and if you practice a little bit, I think that should really help you. But yeah, these are not something that only based on B2B commerce or B2C commerce or marketing cloud or Pardot, they will not get you across the line for these credentials.
Got it. Thanks, Gaurav. We have a couple of questions from Mandy, so I'll take the first one. So she's asking if you have, is there any CTA as part of the Salesforce mentorship program? She just heard about the CTA part today, so she's curious, like, if there's any mentorship program for CTAs. I know it's not directly
Yes.
related to this, but yeah,
Yeah, I can answer this because I'm actually a part of multiple such groups. So Salesforce runs like weekly office hours for CTA aspirants. It's called Salesforce Architect Office Hours. There is a group called Architect Trailblazer Community on the Trailblazer community, and publish the schedule. It's like every alternate Tuesday and every alternate Thursday. Beyond that, there is a lot of things that the community is doing to help prepare people for CTA. So there are groups, like there is a group called SIMA, which is Salesforce Architects in the Making. I just presented there yesterday. I'll share the link in the chat as well. But if you just Google Salesforce Architects in the Making, you'll see that. And then there are a couple of other groups. There is a group called Benelux CTA Study Group. There is a group called there is a lady called Melissa Shefford. She runs a Slack channel and a Slack workspace and a study group. So there are lots of resources, and you will be able to find most of these resources in the Trailblazer group that I just mentioned. So again, there is support from Salesforce, and there is support from the community side as well if you are preparing for CTA.
got it, got it. Okay, thanks, Gaurav. The second question that Mandy had was, so she's saying that there is a misconception in some of the companies where they expect, like, solution or technical architects to be involved in the only in the discovery or the design phase of the project lifecycle, right? And then they just roll them off, like, during the implementation and later parts. So can you share any thoughts on that, Gaurav?
Yeah, so it really depends. I think it comes down to like what kind of a engagement model a specific company follows. Like for our strategic engagements, and we don't call them projects, we call them programs. Solution architects are dedicated throughout the project lifecycle, and we don't take them off once the discovery is done. They actually stick through the implementation phase, because again, once the implementation for one phase is done, typically it starts with discovery and solution design for the next phase. So for smaller companies, or for like projects which are not really very long in duration, like a shorter engagement, 3 months, 6 months, it's very common that a solution architect would come into play in the pre-sales cycles. Once the deal is done, then they would typically hand it off to a technical architect who will do the actual architecture. But again, it is contextual, and it depends on the kind of organization and the scale of the project as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Gaurav. All right, folks, that's all we have time today for. So if you have any additional questions for Gaurav, please do reach out to him on the platform itself. Like, you can connect to him or through one of his social contacts, either LinkedIn or Twitter. And we really hope you enjoyed this session. And thank you, Gaurav, for the wonderful insights and recommendations on the two new solution architect credentials. I'm definitely looking forward to, like, pursuing them as well. Okay. So before we leave, folks, please do, like, help us improve the program by completing the short survey after each of these sessions. It will just take a few seconds, and you can also earn points by submitting the survey, right? So now you can exit back to the auditorium and choose the next breakout session that you would like to attend. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of C Dreaming. Thank you. Bye bye.